Wow, 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 ladies and gentlemen. I've come across something that gives me another reason on why I believe it's very possible that this can be Keyshawn Davis's next opponent if he decides to fight at 147 pounds. Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, Brian Norman Jr., who a lot of people thought was a possible next fight for Keyshawn Davis, as the man ducked Debo Devin Haney, whether or not you want to agree with that. People predicted that maybe Brian Norman Jr. is the man that is going to be announced this week. Keyshawn Davis on his Instagram story dropping this, saying he has an announcement this week. People were predicting that maybe Brian Norman Jr. is that guy. Well, Brian Norman Jr. took to Twitter, ladies and gentlemen, and basically answered that for us. He is not fighting Keyshawn Davis. You can take that off the list. Ladies and gentlemen, he don't want smoke with Devin Haney, and he don't want smoke with Brian Norman Jr. So who is Keyshawn Davis fighting, ladies and gentlemen? I know. Frank Martin seems to be on top of that list. Even though Frank Martin's fighting at 140 pounds, that means that Keyshawn Davis would have to continue and fight at 140 pounds, taking himself out of the rankings, petitioning to be in the welterweight rankings, which he is now, ladies and gentlemen, ranked by the WBC. If he fights Frank Martin, he's going back down to 140 pounds. Is that what Keyshawn Davis really wants to do? Ladies and gentlemen, there's something that I didn't speak about that came from Bob Arum's statement that Dan Rafael, shout out to Dan Rafael, dropped on his Substack. I actually didn't see a lot of people break this, which was shocking to me, but I understand the reasons. Bob Arum had said that a replacement fight for Devin the Dream Haney, instead of fighting Keyshawn Davis when Keyshawn Davis ducked him, a replacement fight was amendable, that the Zone had actually agreed to. A fight that they said, all right, if Keyshawn Davis doesn't want this fight, we got another fighter in Top Rank, that you guys' company in Top Rank, that will accept as a replacement. Yes. And that was Tiger Johnson. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Tiger Johnson. Now, I didn't hear nobody report on it. Nothing ended up coming about from it. I know Tiger Johnson called the man out, but Tiger Johnson is nowhere in at least the line right now to be next for a WBO welterweight shot against Devin Haney. Wow. The other day, check this out. I see Tiger Johnson say that he has an announcement coming soon. In August, he says he has an announcement coming soon. I see Keyshawn Davis comment on that post. Now, he comments on a lot of his posts, but I see him put, yes, sir. And I think to myself, is this the play? If Keyshawn Davis stays at 147 pounds, but he's not fighting Brian Norman Jr., is it Tiger Johnson? Is it Rohan Polanco? Who is it? Who is respectable enough for Keyshawn Davis to step in there with? For the fans to respect it. He says Frank Martin at 140 pounds. I don't think there's a lot of people that want to see that fight. I see people saying, oh, that's a good fight, that's a good fight. Maybe it is, but when you look at the track record of Frank Martin and the little circle that they got going down with Keyshawn Davis and Nahir Albright, Jermaine Ortiz included in that. Ladies and gentlemen, Frank Martin had a draw with a guy that Jermaine Ortiz stopped. Nahir Albright had a draw with Frank Martin. Keyshawn Davis beat Frank Martin twice. He beat Jermaine Ortiz. I know the triangle theory doesn't work most of the time in the sport of boxing. Styles make fights. But I just feel like this isn't moving forward. Coming off a potential WBO welterweight showdown with Devin Haney, if you're going back down to 140 pounds, I want to see a world title shot. Maybe Dalton Smith, maybe a Gary Antoine Russell, maybe a Sabril Matias, maybe a Oscar Duarte. Some type of fight like that, ladies and gentlemen. Not a fight with Frank Martin, who's barely had 2 fights at 140 pounds. I mean, he's fought against Gervonta Tank Davis. Took a year and a half off after getting knocked out. Then goes in there and knocks out Rantis Barthelemy, which was a fantastic win, 4th round knockout. A great win for him to bounce back, ladies and gentlemen, and put himself back on the map. But just how much left did Rantis Barthelemy have in him? The dude got knocked out by Gary Anton Russell in 6 rounds. The dude went to decision with Jose Ramirez. And the dude went to decision with Robert Easter Jr. previous to that. So how many miles did Rantis Barthelemy have on him, ladies and gentlemen? Frank Martin beats him and then goes into a fight with Nahir Albright and has a draw with him? Ladies and gentlemen, there's better fights to be made. But we got to see how this all ends up playing out. As of right now, Brian Norman Jr. has officially taken himself out of the equation, ladies and gentlemen, which now only leaves a certain amount of options. The question is, who is it going to be? Is it going to be respectable enough for the fans to fall back on this and say, all right, good pick? Or are we going to be saying, my goodness, the options that this dude has, and they don't even try to start negotiations. They just keep on swerving away from everybody. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. It's absolutely breaking news. I'm out.